p.m. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'd like to thank you all for coming out. Ask Commissioner Harden if he'll lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this goodness and this great day that you've given us. Thank you for all the ways you bless us and watch over us and ask us as we go throughout the county's business, Lord, and you will lead and guide us and direct us to give us the wisdom that we need to make the best decisions we can for our community. We ask all these things in your name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming out. If you'd like to speak, please come see Patty over here and fill out a speaker card. You can speak citizens to be heard either once at the beginning or once at the end, and also on each individual agenda item. As long as you fill out a speaker card, please speak into the microphone, give us your name and address, and we appreciate you coming. At this point, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull tab 4, and I'll be adding one additional presentation item.
Okay.
Is tab 4 pulled for discussion? For discussion, off consent?
Yes, off consent.
Okay. Additional changes? Have a motion to accept?
Approve agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Next, we'll go into our first citizens to be heard. Start out with Mr. Chuck Hess.
Good evening, gentlemen. I see on the agenda that you have the Foley plant here tonight, and I just wanted to reiterate the questions I would like to see that we ask them. Basically, there are, if we're concerned about our fisheries and, our fishermen, we have to make sure we keep our waters clean. And so I would really, there's 4 questions. What's the level of toxins entering the Gulf currently before they do the change? What's the level of toxins entering the Gulf after they do the change? What's the level that's going to be what would occur if they left the pipe where it is and just made the changes to the plant and kept putting it in the river? And number 4, how many of the chemicals they're putting in the Gulf do bioaccumulation? Basically, will they get in the fish and slowly build up in the fish over time so they become toxic? To us is the concern here. So those questions need to be addressed and answered by the Foley plant for, if we're going to do this.
They wrote them down, Chuck. Hey,
okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Ms. Nikki Barnes.
Hello, hello. Just want to let everyone in the audience know and at home know that tomorrow night at the Crawfordville Women's Club, Roy Zimmerman will be performing live. For those of you who don't know who Roy Zimmerman is, he's a satirical songwriter who writes about political hot topics like class warfare, marriage equality, guns, marijuana, abstinence, any other various conservative and progressive political hot points during the election cycle. So it's going to be a really good time, great comedy event. Tickets are $20. We do have room to sell at the door, so I encourage everyone to come out. If you're going to buy tomorrow, please arrive early. Doors open at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go, Nicole.
That's the last of our citizens to be heard. We'll move into awards and presentation. We'll start out first with Mr. Les Harrison with our Extension Office.
Thank you for your time this evening, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Whoops. Already messed it up. We at the Extension Office would like to thank you for your support. We are here to serve all of Wakulla County with self-directed educational opportunities. We have quick and friendly service for everyone who calls, emails, or comes through the front door. We offer a variety of information, including agriculture and natural resources, home horticulture, and a Master Gardener program, family and consumer sciences, including nutritional programming, and 4-H and youth programs. We utilize a variety of tools to reach out to folks in Wakulla County. We use the traditional media sources such as the newspaper and the radio. We also use local fact sheets. Rather than read the entire list here for you, I can't think of anything that we don't do to reach out to folks and let them know what we do for the citizens of Wakulla County. We work with a number of partners in the area. These are some right here. Additionally, these are Wakulla County departments. Additionally, we work with the health department, the library, the school system, the Women, Infant, and Children's Program, school advisory committees, the wellness committees, and the Community Health Improvement Plan. Also, we work with a number of NGOs, non-governmental organizations here. In addition to these up here, we also work with WCCY, food pantries, the Pregnancy Center, and churches. These are some of the numbers generated, and this is some that I have helped generate, but I also have assistance from my co-workers here at the Extension Office generating these numbers. As you can see, we've broken these down in several of the areas, including media, web visits, classes that we have taught. The Food Nutrition, Food Safety, and Health Program, we have reached over 1,000 youth. Healthy youth are youth which will not be a cost in the future and more likely to stay out of trouble. We have adults and community enhance their knowledge and skills and practice on a number of food safety, food preparation. We've got educational booths, and our FCS agent here, Shelley Swenson, will be talking about the, I believe it's the Blue Zone coming up here shortly. Our Wakulla County Youth Program, we have a number of camps and offerings. We have kids out raising vegetables. We have kids on horseback. We have kids building robots. All of these are self-directed. We're dependent upon leaders to help coordinate with the kids, but we have a variety of offerings for them. We appealed to their interest and help them learn. So when we're all sitting in the old folks' home in a rocking chair, they'll be taking good care of us. Again, some more of the 4-H opportunities here. And again, we are very, very dependent upon 4-H volunteers. So anyone who is interested, please, we encourage, join us. We do have an age-appropriate program for every youth in Wakulla County. And we would like to thank each of you for our financial support. Now, those are our 4 faculty members: Gohar Umar on the left, me, Shelley Swenson, and Eric Westbrook. In addition to those, we also have our office staff, and we have a volunteer network involving 40 or 50 people here that are working for Wakulla County. That's a brief thumbnail sketch of it. Please, if you have any questions.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, sir.
I noticed on the statistics that there were there, you had over 1 million hits.
Yes, sir.
To the website.
Yes, sir.
Over what period of time? And
1 year. That's over 1 year. We utilize not only our website, we have what is known as a subscription management system where we push information out to subscribers. We also have a website. We also produce, in total, close to 100 newspaper stories a year between myself, a 4-H agent, and the FCS agent. And those go out through the website there. Some of our stories are also picked up in magazines and actually go nationally. We even have one YouTube video posted at the site that has over 102,000 views.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for those articles you write for the Wakulla News.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Each of you has before you the ROA, or Report of Accomplishments, from Shelley Swenson, our FCS agent, and a sample of honey. This honey was produced in the demonstration garden at the Wakulla Extension Office.
Were they extract it there too, or they take it to a real place?
They took it to a real place.
It's not easy.
Actually, the gentleman on there, Bobby's Honey, Bob Livingston, is the beekeeper who extracted it.
Very familiar with beekeepers.
Yeah.
Very good.
Any other questions? Questions?
Just appreciate everything that you do. I've seen a lot of your articles, as I receive them, but I've also seen them in publications, regional and large publications, and it's I'm glad that whenever I see the article that our extension agency is the one that's sending them out. It's very informative, and I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And I support the Wakulla County Extension.
Thank you. And I appreciate that, too.
Thank you for coming and giving us an update.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
And it's always good to get a little bit of honey.
Thank you, Les.
Next, we'll have a presentation relating to the Foley Cellulose Mill and Finn Holloway Water Quality Project. Mr. Scott Mixon, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Again, my name is Scott Mixon. I'm with Foley Cellulose over in Perry. I'm the Public Affairs Manager. With me tonight, I have Chet Thompson, our Finn Holloway Water Quality Project Leader. And just a few opening comments. First, thank you very much for having us back. We appreciate the invitation to be able to come over and answer questions. As I said before at our first meeting, you're our neighbors, and we look at that, in that way, and we want to build a strong relationship with Wakulla County. We did bring a presentation, but what we'd like to do is hold off on going through that presentation and make the priority that you have, and that is to get questions answered. That's what we're here for. So we'll begin to do that, and we've written down Mr. Hess's questions. We'll try to get to those. The questions that we received via email, just to restate them, the commissioners are very concerned with the extension of the pipeline sending effluent to within a mile of the confluence within the Gulf, therefore putting the Gulf in direct conflict and being contaminated at that point and could bleed to Wakulla shores. Also, another question is that if you are cleaning the water up so well, then why don't you continue to put it back in the river where it is currently going in at the plant? As you know, the river will never fully clean itself from years of dumping, so it would seem that if your company is cleaning the water, then let it run down the river and then assure that the Gulf is not being damaged, end quote. Those were the two questions that we received to begin with. I'm going to ask that Chet step up, if you would please, with me, and just begin by saying the pipeline is just one element of this project. There's a lot that goes on ahead of the pipeline, and so, Chet, would you join me, and let's begin to answer the questions.
What I'd like to do is just kind of make three statements to kind of respond to the initial questions that we were emailed, and then as you noted, I was writing down Mr. Hess's questions, and so we'll try to address those too. But as Scott started out, the pipeline is is not an isolated project in itself. People refer to the pipeline project, but really not. It's a phase in a long extension effort that's been going on since 1994. So it's a comprehensive program to improve both the fresh and the marine portions of the Finn Holloway River. I fully understand when you think about the pipeline in isolation, it would appear and seem to increase the pollution at the mouth of the river, and if that's all the company was doing, there may be an argument for that. But because it's part of a comprehensive program, the contaminants reaching the mouth of the river, let me back up a second. While the pipeline by itself would seem to increase the potential of additional contaminants reaching the mouth of the river, the overall water quality is actually significantly improved, and therefore the amount of contaminants reaching the mouth of the river will be improved also. In 2007 and 2009, the EPA established what's called total maximum daily loads, allowable loads, which required reductions of emissions and reductions of pollutants, both organic and nutrients, to the lower Finn Holloway River from what has historically been being discharged via the river, meaning since 1954 when the mill started up, those pollutants traveled down the river to the mouth and have been reaching the mouth of the river. And EPA in 2007 and 2009 said, we're going to reduce the emissions up at the plant before that relocation can happen, meaning there is less pollutants going to the mouth of the river today from the historical levels, and there will actually be less pollutants going to the mouth in the future than there are today, meaning there's been progress in the past based on load reductions, and there will be progress in the future based on load reductions, not the pipeline. It's the overall project. And that's pollutants and toxins, as Mr. Hess referred to. Let me just then try to answer the question of, well, if it's getting better and is improved, why would you move in the first place? Why not leave it at the existing discharge point if it's improved? And so while significant improvements in the mill treated wastewater have occurred and will continue to occur, you know, the extensive study and evaluation that's been done continues to show that the treated wastewater, while compatible with marine recreational standards, is not compatible with freshwater recreational standards. You know, most of us, if we're a fisherman, we know that freshwater fish and marine fish aren't the same, and they don't function in the same in the same environment. And that's exactly in these water bodies. The lower Finn Holloway is a marine water system, where the upper freshwater system obviously is a freshwater system, and our wastewater has much more marine characteristics and is compatible with marine characteristics rather than those freshwater characteristics.
Salts.
Exactly, dissolved salts, exactly. And so, you know, it comes down to that in order to protect all the standards, the significant improvements with load reductions and improved wastewater treatment are occurring for that lower marine river system, while the freshwater system is being addressed by the pipeline. The pipeline only improves the freshwater system. It's not, we've never argued that somehow it's going to improve the lower system. It's all the other significant work that's been done ahead of time that it's addressing the improvements in the lower Finn Holloway system. And so, and that's exactly why the agencies are saying, go make these significant load reductions first, get all those things to assure excellent quality water going on down in the lower river, and when all those improvements have happened, then you relocate to do a final addressing of the freshwater system is what's being done there. So that's the reason why, even after significant improvement in quality, it needs to be moved. And by the way, those same salts that prohibit us from having good water quality in the freshwater portion are also the same issues with us reusing that water. Those salts are, in fact, a contaminant in our process, and we can't reuse them in that same water. So we're not removing those salts from the water. It's the only way for us to meet standards and continue to operate is, in fact, to discharge those salts. And discharge them in a marine environment has been what the work has said. So, and then the last thing I'd like to say is study also indicates, you know, there's some indication that the freshwater portion will never be back to standard, and yet the work we've done and the state has done indicates that removing of our effluent from that freshwater portion will allow that freshwater portion to fairly quickly, and it will depend on the weather patterns and the amount of fresh water flowing down at those times, but we've done a number of what's called Stream Condition Index, SCIs, which is the state mechanism for evaluating the health of a system, both biologically and structurally. And what's great about the Finn Holloway is this basic structure of the freshwater portion of the Finn Holloway is still in place and actually has lots of life in it. It's just not, it's a pollution tolerant life versus some of the real more sensitive species and all. And with removing that high specific conductance, that high salt level in the freshwater portion, there's pretty good data that says very quickly it will restore to a healthy freshwater system, and we intend to document that as the project goes forward to show that we have good SEI scores, those stream condition index scores. I think Mr. Hess, he asked him in a little different way. He says, you know, what's the level of toxins today at the mouth? And I didn't bring a data sheet that shows, but there's been, you know, significant evaluation of the health at the mouth. And by the way, the mouth is achieving very good results even right now, and much improved from historical levels, and those levels will be improved in the future when all the project is done, meaning we've still got a $40+ million wastewater treatment improvement about to go on, and it's going to get better from today, and then when the pipeline goes in, it's not going to change from that improvement after wastewater treatment. The third thing he asked about was, would it be different if we left it in the river? And the answer is, the estuary would not be different, meaning it would be that improvement. If all we were focused on was the marine and the estuary, we could leave it in the river and it would continue to go down to the mouth of the river just like it does today, and we would have restored the estuary, but we would not have restored the freshwater portion of the river, which we have a legal obligation to do both. Okay? And then the last thing, and I heard my time.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right. And then the last thing was a question on the bioaccumulation of toxins. Are there any of those? And pulp and paper mills have, not unlike municipal wastewater and other wastewaters, do at times have, you know, known toxins and all that have been identified as bioaccumulating toxins. And one of the real challenges that are in those areas is the level that bioaccumulates is often below detection limits within the measured wastewater. And so one that people know commonly that, you know, is often accused in a pulp and paper mill is dioxin. And of course the water quality standard is 0.014 parts per quadrillion in the water column, whereas typical low-level measurement only gets down to 1 part per quadrillion. So significantly above what you can measure in the water column. And the way the agencies are working with the companies to make sure that we're meeting those standards and have set those standards is they make us catch fish every year, and we actually have to analyze the fish fillets every year to ensure that we don't have those constituents in our wastewater and are not bioaccumulating those in the fish in the lower fin Holloway. So we're sampling fish now, analyzing those fillets, and will be required to continue to do that. And so those are areas that the company and the agencies are focused on, and to ensure that it's nothing but improvement at the mouth rather than any degradation that may happen. So.
And as Chet said, we will, after the project is completed, we don't just walk away. We continue to monitor those same things ongoing.
Right. So I'll take questions now. So,
Howard.
Thank you. So will you send us the current levels of the toxic chemicals?
I can send you our effluent monitoring from that we've done in the effluent, right? I can also, you know, we can send you the water quality data that's been taken in the river in recent years. Yeah, we can send you tables of that data.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Okay.
All right.
Now, that's just at the current discharge point, or can you send us data at where the new pipe will discharge?
The state has both. The state, of course, does through their 5-year cycle with the impaired waters rule, does those, you know, water column numbers on a 5-year cycle, and what's in the state database, we can pull out for you.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman. Yeah, that'd be valuable. So you'll be pulling out You're saying you're pulling out where the effluent currently is discharged now, and then at a point further down where...
Well, what the state does, actually, this is a time that may be good for a slide. Is this the slide? Yeah, and we just had some random slides. I wasn't exactly sure. Keep going. Go. What I want to show is that the way the state determines, you can keep going. Keep going. Right there. Oh, one back. This is the Finn-Holloway system mount right here. And these are called water body identification codes. And anybody, the public, can access this in the DEP website. You know, they divide up every water body. In fact, the water bodies over here are the same way. And they determine, number one, are they considered normally marine or normally freshwater, and then what their classification are. And of course, the classification they've now said the Finn-Holloway should be, and is so designated, is recreational. And if it's recreational, it's got to meet certain standards, and they go and collect data on those standards every 5 years to determine whether it's not, and what the state's term is, whether it's impaired or not. Impairment means it's not meeting standards. And so the Finn-Holloway has got 4 water body segments. They've got this marine that's monitored right out the mouth. They've got the lower estuary also, right? It kind of gets tight right here, but there's a section called below the mill. They literally, the state defined a freshwater body just below the mill, and they monitor that. And then they also look at above the mill, right? And based on the last time, go back one slide, Scott. Based on, no, I made a mistake. Go forward one slide. I apologize. You know, based on the last time the state did this assessment of what's out of standards, right, they said, I know you can't see that, and I apologize, but, you know, they said there are, this is Finn-Holloway at the mouth, Finn-Holloway, river below the pulp mill, Finn-Holloway River below the pulp mill, Finn-Holloway River below the pulp mill. So, you know, what they've said is there's 3 categories of things that were impaired below the pulp mill, and they then come over here and tell you how they're addressing them and what their priority is. And then they also said here was the priority at the mouth, and what their, you know, what the data is that was the problem at the mouth, and what they're doing about them. So, you know, that is the, you know, basic system to look at. Okay, we've got these different water bodies, or part of a water body, and we divide it up, and what is the appropriate standard for the recreational fishing, swimming, and what standards should be met in each of those. So,
can I clarify, are you saying that recreational includes fishing and swimming?
Absolutely.
Or are those different categories?
No, it's all within recreational.
So right now, it's cleared to eat fish out of that portion?
There is no fish advisory on the Finn-Holloway except for the statewide mercury one that applies to, you know, statewide based on mercury, just like other water bodies around. There is nothing advisory-wise from the Department of Health on the discharge.
Does that ever change depending on time of year, season, output, or
It does not. There's not been there was a fish advisory by the Florida Department of Health from 1988 until 2003 based on dioxin in the Finn-Holloway, and the mill back then did, and I say back then, I was part of it then. It was part of Procter & Gamble and then Buckeye by itself, and made significant process changes to eliminate elemental chlorine in its use, and we saw those numbers significantly drop, and we did fish sampling with the Department of Health, and they determined that the levels had gone to where they were no longer at risk, and so pulled that fish advisory in 2003.
And just to add, we have 2 landings down there, Hicks Fish Camp Landing and Peterson's Landing. A number of people put in right there at the Finn-Holloway, and they go out of the mouth to fish, and it is absolutely gorgeous down there. People fish out of there all the time.
You have a company fish fry, though, from those fish.
The answer would be yes if we had it, but we didn't. We don't have one.
That would give us a good image.
I understand, and maybe public affairs needs to do that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
You need to have a company fish fry.
yeah. You know, they're so anyway.
You said that, the estuary was clean.
It is meeting, it has been the data we've taken. Let me clarify. That first column up there is still, that's an impairment for the estuary. So from the last assessment, it was still impaired for dissolved oxygen. All right, they've not redone that. That's right.
But it was dissolved oxygen, and that's the only difficulty with it.
That is correct.
Is that going to be corrected?
It is actually already corrected. They've just not done the new assessment.
So your real focus now is cleaning up the freshwater part of the river.
We've got nutrient issues that still need to come down, which is the purpose of our wastewater treatment improvement.
Nutrients at the
they go all the way down. They go down all the way down the river. The river is mostly just a conduit to the Gulf of Mexico today, and I use mostly because there are two critical things that do happen in the river today, and one is it nitrifies. It's actually breaking down ammonia nitrogen and breaking it down into nitrates. Happens in the river today. The other thing is there's a cooling effect in the river today. And so by the time there's an improved temperature and an improved form of nitrogen, by the time it reaches the estuary today, that significant improvement in wastewater treatment we're doing is going to provide additional cooling of our wastewater treatment and, in fact, take care of all that remove the nitrogen, not even nitrify, so that our new numbers going to the estuary will, in fact, be better than they are today.
Your temperature of your water going out to the estuary, is that just a normal temperature, or is it?
It's not. Today, where it hits the river is not a normal temperature. It is higher than background, so that's why we have to provide cooling before any move is happening.
Now, you said where it hits the river, but where the factory's water hits the river.
Correct.
But where it gets down to the estuary.
By the time it travels that 20 miles to the estuary, it matches up with the Ecofina today.
Yeah. What is the water flow of the Finn Holloway, the cubic feet per second?
I was going to say at the Hampton Springs Bridge, which is about River Mile 13, right, which is about halfway down from the mill. The typical water flow there runs 140, 150 cubic feet per second.
Not a lot, then.
It's a relatively small stream. It's very naturally similar to the Ecofina. So, yeah.
Is the DO low at the discharge point of the plant, too, or just in the estuary?
It is low at the discharge point, not right at the discharge point, but because what happens is the natural biodes in the river start using that oxygen up, so not too far down from our discharge, the oxygen is used up when the water flow is low. As I'm sure you got lots of rain this past weekend, so did we. You know, that gauge that I was just referring to is running 400 or 500 CFS right now. You could probably go put a DO probe in right now and the DO would be fine. But it's as we cycle down into those lower drought flows and things like that, the DO goes down.
I asked that because you said earlier y'all were addressing the low DO in the estuary, but if you're not causing it, it's just natural. I mean, what are you going to do, aerate the water and increase the DO at the discharge?
We were causing it when this was set, right? It is in fact the lowering of our BOD, our biochemical oxygen demand in our wastewater, significant reductions and reductions limit, that has allowed the estuary to start meeting standard down there. If for example, we did the pipeline without that wastewater treatment improvement, you would end up discharging a ammonia nitrogen level that when bacteria nitrify that, and they use it for bacteria and algae use it as a nutrient, right? When they use that, though, they use oxygen. So you would actually have an oxygen demand from that if we weren't removing that in wastewater before we set it down there. That oxygen demand, the reason we get low dissolved oxygen in the river is actually not due to carbonaceous BOD. It's due to nitrogenous BOD, the ammonia nitrogen. So, okay?
You mentioned that your temperature reaches ambient by the time it reaches the estuary. How is that going to change once you send it through a pipe so it's not being dissolved and mixed along the way?
The way it changes is our wastewater treatment system has to meet that ambient system. We're in part of that significant upgrade in our wastewater treatment system now includes cooling towers and cooling systems within our treatment so that we discharge and have specific temperature limits per season to hit the ambient temperature down in the estuary. So we're not allowed to discharge it even into the pipe before we meet those ambient temperatures. Okay?
Very good.
So, thank you. So the real question for me is, I guess, a couple of real questions for me, because they're all real. When we have all those pollutants that have settled out into the Penn Holloway now, how long is that expected to stay there and remain a polluting source every time a boat may stir it up or something like that?
There's actually little accumulation in the Penn Holloway River. We have done sediment analysis. In fact, EPA, before approving this plan, did significant sediment analysis and survey up and down the river in 1999 and had difficulty finding, significant sedimentation in the river, meaning it is a well-scoured river, which is actually fairly common for a blackwater stream. You would find the same phenomena in the Ecofina River if you were to go there because of the storm flash events that you get with these blackwater rivers. So, so the reality is it is structurally in good shape to be restored very quickly. There is not significant pollutant accumulation in the Penn Holloway.
And so, jumping to the concern of our fishermen, because the question I get from them: are we going to be, are you going to be better today than you were yesterday? Is our fishing water, is our Gulf water going to be more contaminated or less contaminated with this new cleaning up of the water that you're doing at the plant, but discharging whatever is left over at the mouth?
And my absolute statement is it will be improved from where it is today, right? It is with, and that's what I started out with. I don't want to, blow smoke and say, oh, if all we need is the pipeline. It is only a piece of a much greater investment that's designed to clean the whole system up. But from where we've been historically and from where we are today, it will be improved from today.
And maybe my last question. But, dilution is the solution to pollution, but it not.
Like it not to be, right? Yeah.
Well, it isn't anymore. It's like you can't throw things away anymore. We're all living in the same world. The resources are finite. Our ocean is finite. Our Gulf is finite. When this stuff, what are we doing? It's better, but are we still harming the Gulf?
Using the health standards established by EPA and DEP, right, the answer is if we meet those standards, there's a belief that it's not harming the Gulf, All right, those standards are in fact designed to protect the recreational standards in the natural environment at the mouth. And and when you look at where, in this case, it's not even a new discharge, it's a discharge that's been existing there since 1954, and unfortunately, maybe our expectations were not as high as they should have been of ourselves in 1954, but as we've grown and understood what's possible and what ought to be, it's been a continuous improvement since then. And so it is in fact, we're protecting the Gulf, we believe, and we're protecting the estuary, and we believe with the final solution we'll protect the freshwater portion of the river.
So it is, to go back, we don't have accumulation of the toxins or pollutants.
That's correct.
Okay. In the fish and in the water.
We do not.
But there are heavy salts that are going to be discharged still.
And when you say heavy salts, I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure what all these chemicals are.
Yeah,
either.
well, the salts, the primary salts in our wastewater are chloride. Sodium chloride is the predominant one, and then we also have sodium sulfate. They are the highest salt content that causes our specific conductance that makes it non-compatible with fresh water. So it's table salt content that is...
Sodium chloride I can handle. Well, even that becomes harmful if it's concentrated.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And you're exactly right, particularly in fresh water.
Well, I appreciate you coming back. I wish I would have the expertise of maybe a person like Dr. Hess who could more engage you in answering more technical questions that I'm capable of even thinking of. Would you be willing to engage in that dialogue with Dr. Hess?
I'd be willing to engage with him personally. I mean, I don't want to have a back and forth up here.
No, I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
The door is open.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are your efforts limited to just improving the water quality? Will there be any restoration of the ecosystem, plant life once you solve the DO problem and get rid of the salts? Anything that would help recover that system?
We are doing a headwater restoration of what's called the San Pedro Bay wetland headwaters, right, which is primarily focused on the release of those waters and the timing, the hydro period, the time on the upper end. All right. We are also monitoring, and preserving. It actually is a wetland mitigation bank, so it's preserved in order to protect those wetlands once we get some level of restoration up there of that roughly 7,000 acres. But that wasn't a real specific question you asked me. The downstream portion, the structure, the vegetative structure and what's along the downstream portion is excellent today. And so you put that water quality back, and there's really nothing that needs to be done from a vegetation. Your littoral banks and all like that are in good shape. When you
talking in the river and the estuary.
Yes, yeah, both.
So there's no plants that are absent that should be there.
That is correct. Yeah.
Apple snails or limpkin or any indicator species that we can recognize.
We've not done an apple snail limpkin assessment, so I can't answer that particularly. But the vegetation communities are there. The one vegetation species that was a concern was seagrasses at the mouth, that were the years of study that started out with Dr. Skip Livingston from FSU and have been well published, and Dr. Barry Vitor from over in Mobile continued that work in 2004, and it was part of the establishment of what the restoration plan was, and the final end there was the fact that the amount of color in our effluent added to the already dark color of the Blackwater stream, and we ended up with suppressing the light that needed, photosynthesis that was needed for those seagrasses at the mouth of the Thin Holloway. And so it was a significant work that's been done to reduce that effluent color that's traveling all the way down the river today, and we have more natural patterns of seagrasses at the mouth of the river today. And that premise, just very much like off of Wakulla County here, is if you've got good structural seagrass beds, your rest of your food chain ought to function correctly. It really is, make sure the foundation is there, and what builds on that foundation will come naturally. And so we think we've got good vegetative foundation along the river, freshwater and marine. We've put back in place good foundation out at the receiving water in that segment at the very end, and therefore it should be good, and it'll be monitored, for both water quality and and biointegrity. We do I say that we do in fact do a macroinvertebrate comparison in the estuary today with the Ecofina, and its Shannon Weaver Diversity Index is comparable to the lower Ecofina today, and that's saying that your diversity of your macroinvertebrate there in the estuary are similar to the current system over in Ecofina.
So probably my last question. So how does that section of the Gulf compare to the rest of the Gulf? Oyster beds, oyster quality, is that monitored, or are there open oyster beds? Is it closed all the time? I mean, do you have that information?
There are some kind of natural oyster beds there. They are not considered real productive. It is a focus on seagrass beds in that area. I do not believe they're open oyster beds. That type of system, for one thing, it's naturally a low nutrient system. It's not like Apalachicola Bay where you have a naturally high nutrient system even to feed those oysters. This is, the technical term I believe is oligotrophic. It's low productivity, low nutrient, and so just naturally is not where you would be looking for oyster production. It is good, should be good scalloping, but not good oyster production. So.
And out of the mouth, there's trout, there's redfish, ice scallop out there. There's a good food chain.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Further questions? Discussion? Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you making another trip over here.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next, Commissioner Kessler, you have a couple items.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One is I regret that I'm going to have to cancel a scheduled town hall meeting April 14th for personal reasons. So I just wanted to make that announcement.
Gotta do your taxes.
No, not that good. And then the second item, for those of you who had the privilege of attending the first annual Vietnam Veterans Welcome Home celebration, Remembering the Forgotten, you know that this event was truly outstanding.
Yes, it was.
And it was outstanding in many ways. First and foremost, it was an event long time coming. Much deserved, recognizing those from Wakulla County who served during the Vietnam War. The scope of the war and just how many people in our country and our county that were affected by the war was made very clear if you were at that ceremony. The Wakulla County Veterans Officer, Harold Ross, did an outstanding job in organizing and creating this Welcome Home Vietnam Veterans Day ceremony. The speakers and their content were outstanding. The recognition and thanks to our Vietnam veterans was the primary focus of the ceremony. And that expression of thanks, as I said, long overdue, rang loud and clear throughout the ceremony. And at the end, our Veterans Officer, Harold Ross, had mentioned a group of people and organizations and businesses that were supportive of this first attempt at the ceremony, which, as I said, was outstanding. And I'd just like to mention them again. he gave thanks to it. It may have gone unheard by a lot of the people in our community. So the Rotary Club of Crawfordville, Hamanaka's Barbecue, Amazing Mail Solution, VW Post 4538, VFW Post 4538, VFW Auxiliary Post 4538, Judge Mike Carter, retired, Elder Isaac Mays, Lieutenant Colonel Hank Butler and his wife Rita Butler, Family Funeral Home, Wakulla News, Wave 94.1, and our own Dolly Mitchell, our park attendant, who always makes sure our park is in the best of condition when it starts and the best of condition when it finishes. It was just an incredible day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Good job. And Mr. Ross, I must have had a dozen veterans come up and tell me how much they appreciate you and what you've done, not just that event, but what you've done for them since you came to work for the county. So keep that up, and thank you very much.
So I want to add one more thing. I didn't know you were in the room, but the people that were there that were receiving recognition were very grateful for that recognition. People that were not Vietnam vets or served during the Vietnam era were also very touched and very grateful for the fine job that you did. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, move consent. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. Howard, you pulled item number 4.
Yes, I did, sir. This is the scrap, stop, and CIG. SIGV, be an acronym. I just want the community to know that this is where the state helps us repair or pave our roads, repave. And so the two, if I can go down to it, the two roads that are being submitted are the Ivan Church Road and the Smith Creek Road in the town portion.
Where's the town? I know Smith Creek out of town. But
yeah, well,
is that around the church? Don't worry about it.
That's okay. That's okay. All right.
David.
And the okay, we're going to hear from it now. And so anyway, you want to speak to that?
Sure. Basically, Smith Creek Road, we've broken it into several segments because overall it's too large to ever be funded. If you can scroll forward, there's actually a map that shows exactly what everything is that we're proposing. Well, it doesn't show up all that great there, but there's red and green. The green is the segments of the roadways that have already been approved by FDOT. They're in the 5-year work program, and in the coming years, those will be resurfaced. The ones that are in red are the 5 that we have recommended that we submit. So you can see the one red to the east on Smith Creek Road that's right in Sopchoppy, basically. It's the section that comes through Sopchoppy. So one of the scrap applications has to be less than $100,000. So we have to look for a small segment of road. And that was one that we felt like was very well used, that would be a real benefit for a small segment of road.
In town means in Sopchoppy, not Smith Creek.
Right.
That clarifies.
Yeah. So basically from...
Smith Creek.
So that was stretched from the bridge in town to 319.
30 miles long.
That's right.
Okay.
So you might as well continue with the other.
Okay, sure. So then you can see the section of Smith Creek Road that's green. That was previously approved. And so what we did is we extended the next segment that we felt would be a fundable segment that wouldn't exceed what we feel DOT would fund. So we've heard loud and clear that Smith Creek Road is a priority, and so we're pushing to do that, but in achievable increments. Harvey Mill Road, working back to the east.
Smith Creek Highways, right now, it used to be 18, or 16 feet actually, and it's 20 now, right? Is it gonna be any wider paved shoulder?
We are proposing widening and resurfacing.
I'm sure Larry will like that.
Yes.
School buses will love it.
Well, it was pretty hairy riding
Yeah.
a school bus
Yeah.
when past a log truck when it's 16 feet wide.
Again, moving east, Harvey Mill Road, the northern portion of that roadway had already been completed, so we felt that it would be a logical approach to extend the remainder of that. Then East Ivan, again, each category, each project or funding program, SCOP, SCRAP, and CIGP, and for those that don't know, SCOP, Small County Outreach Program, SCRAP, Small County Resurfacing Assistance Program, and the County Incentive Grant Program. The CIGP, the County Incentive Grant Program, one of the requirements for that is it has to either be on the state highway system or relieve congestion from the state highway system. So we have to make sure that it's connected to a road that's on the state highway system, and that's where 319 comes into play. And we can make the strong argument in our application that many travelers or motorists will use East Ivan to leave 319 and to get where they're going. Otherwise, they may stay on 319 and take alternate routes. So that was a logical approach with that project recommendation. And then Ivan Church Road, again, that's one that needed resurfacing and widening. So that's what we were doing. Now, we looked at, staff gave us probably 15, 20 roads to look at. We've been doing this for a long time. We know what DOT will generally like to fund or what they don't like to fund. And don't get me wrong, there's probably other candidate roads within the county that would be suitable. These are the ones we feel like have a good chance that we recommend that we pursue. Last year, I think we got 3 of the 5 that we pursued. Generally, that's, in other counties, other areas that we do this, 3 to 4 out of the 5 is what we like to see. Every once in a while we don't get that, but most of the time we do. And it's because, we have, like I say, a good idea of what DOT likes and what DOT will generally fund. And that's kind of how we...
Second.
I just want to point out, when we were having discussions about the 1-cent sales tax allocation, and I brought up to David about the scrap and SCOP money helps pay for resurfacing. This is a good example of that. So we don't have to pay for it all ourselves.
That's right.
Absolutely. And I've got an additional question, if you don't mind. I know we have a road paving matrix for dirt roads. Do we have a similar tool for repaving?
We have probably not as detailed as that. What ESG has maintained is a matrix of when roads have been paved. So we can go back and look at that and say, okay, well, these roads, it's been 15 years since we've done something here. And that's kind of where we start. And then we say, okay, well, based on that, well, is this a dead-end road or is this more of a residential road? Honestly, we have some roads that go to nowhere, and we're going to have a hard time convincing DOT of funding those. So even though they may show up on the matrix as needed, really and truly, those are the types of roads that we need to focus that 1-cent sales tax money on. We have a target set of roads that we really feel like we can get DOT to fund. Right. There's other roads that we know from the very beginning that it's an uphill battle to get to that point. And so generally we stay away from those because ideally we'd like to get 5 out of 5 funded. So we want to turn in the most fundable projects that we can to DOT.
And you could only turn in
5.
That's right. I told y'all a story how that paving matrix got its name, so I won't tell you again.
Go ahead.
And I had asked for clarification over the projects for the last couple of years, and Cleve and David provided that to me, so thank you. And I will admit up front, this is just a small, I don't have the entire picture, but it looks like, looking at that information, there's a little bit of an imbalance between the different districts. Is there any mechanism to make sure that we can tell the public out there that we're, their taxpayers' dollars are being equally considered across all the districts?
To be completely honest, when we discuss this, districts never even come up. Now, maybe they should or shouldn't, but to this point they haven't. Right. I don't know that there's a great answer to that question other than the fact that we don't discuss districts. We look at the county as a whole and say where's the need and where's the most fundable projects located. Right. Now, that being said, if there's a road that we've overlooked, the ship hadn't sailed on this. You could tell me tonight, no, Justin, I'd rather you look at this one rather than that one, and we can do that. Now, the first application, SCOP, are due April 15th, a week from this Friday, and the other applications are due the following Friday. So, but it only takes us a couple of days to get this put together. So if there is something else that we've overlooked, please let us know. I mean, if not, it'll be next year before.
At this point, I don't have anything specific, but I'm just wondering, my fellow commissioners, if that's something that
Not an issue
criteria
for me.
should be in there.
We're elected at large, pretty much. We're all large commissioners. So whatever road department and administration determines is the best bang for the buck, I think that's how it should be done.
Well, yes, and also, I'd rather have 5 submissions that stand a really good chance of being approved than do something that would maybe look geographically more distributive, but not have that high success rate. And I think it's important for us to...
And I agree, but I also noticed on the same token of accepted projects, we've got a pretty big imbalance on rejected projects, where some districts have been rejected at a much higher rate than others. So I don't know. If we don't need to upset the apple cart, I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that we're looking at all the citizens the same and making sure everyone is being considered.
And maybe I should or shouldn't say this, but I will. I do have a county that we have to submit one from each of the 5 districts. I mean, that's the end of the story. I mean, otherwise they're not going to be happy, and it's a struggle. It traditionally has not been as effective as picking the best 5 across the board, regardless of district. That's a decision you guys make, but I would recommend not bringing the districts in. I mean,
we are elected at large. I mean,
Yeah, we're elected at large.
We have to make all of our citizens happy.
right.
But what I was wanting to ask, you may have already answered, but how often can you submit the list of 5?
It's once a year. It's about this time every year. It used to be a little later in the year with the bump up of the legislative cycle. They've bumped the application dates up a little bit. Now there is one other thing, and I think this only affects St. Mark's and Sopchoppy, but I'll let you know so you can let your constituents know. Last year was actually 2 years ago. This will be the 3rd year they actually have a municipal, a citywide SCOP application. Those are coming up in May too. So
St. Mark's is applying.
And anytime you
I mean,
guys
with St. Mark's
come
tomorrow.
up with roads, for example, I always call Brent or Cleve and say, hey, put Jasper Thomas on there, or put Brim Fountain, or Ashley Hall Road comes to mind.
Andrew J. Hargret. I've received a few.
Well, they got to be paved roads.
Right. That one is.
And Ace High Stables, I think, I've mentioned it to you guys.
We've looked at Ace High, we can't get it to qualify. That's the
And
problem.
that's fine, because it has to meet certain criteria, but I
Right.
always,
We tried, there's a couple of those roads we tried.
Brent
we
loves
can't get
people
them.
calling him. Call.
Very good.
As far as roads, just one other question. Every now and then I hear some people ask about Surf Road that goes from Sopchoppy to Oclotney. Is there any limitations because it runs through the refuge that limit it from one day being widened?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it's within the county right away.
That's a pretty narrow road as well.
I agree, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's absolutely within the county's prerogative. It's your right of way.
But the reason the question comes up a lot is the reason
Yeah, that's a little complicated there.
the reason the question comes up a lot is we do have an asset of it's being built now of the bike trail running from Sopchoppy all the way down. But as you're riding down Surf Road, some people have, now that the bike trail's over there, some people have made up the comment that some of that asphalt needed to have went on to make the road wider. So I think we can. It's time maybe to have both. We have the bike trail, which is going to be an asset, but didn't know if in the future maybe Surf Road could be looked at.
From what I understand, the county had approached, actually approached the refuge, and the refuge would not allow allow us to widen the road.
We can't get money from FEMA for that road either.
Yeah, and so, but I mean that was a while back. That's not a new administration. That was a while. That's what I understand. But they did allow us to put the bike trail there. So.
Yeah, and I think.
But anyway, that's something we've got that on our radar screen.
I think the bike
Now
trail
they
is
like
an
to park
asset,
their
and I
trucks
think
on our bike trail, so we might
Exactly.
work that out.
Exactly.
Cleve will tell you that when you're working on Surf Road and you're putting the little markers down, put them on the inside of the yellow line and not on the outside. You can gain a foot on that road.
Yeah, 4-inch striping.
Isn't that right, Cleve?
I've been educated.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, sir. Any
Thank you.
further discussion? No citizens? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, we'll go ahead and move into general business.
Okay.
Item number 5.
This agenda item requests board approval of an agreement between Wakulla County and EMS Management and Consultants, Inc. for EMS billing and consulting services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any citizens? Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. No public hearings, no planning and zonings. Commissioner, agenda items. Commissioner Kessler, you have a couple. Kick us off.
Thank you. First one is the Water Conservation Month proclamation. You all had it. It's something we have routinely supported, and make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first and second. We have one citizen, Miss Nikki Barnes.
Thank you, Commissioners. So I just wanted to stand up here in support of this. I actually had to get on my husband about turning the water off this morning, left for work. But I know some people kind of get nervous or anxious about water conservation, and conservation is not about taking your right away to water your grass. It's more about teaching you the appropriate behaviors to be a good steward to the environment. So typically in the month of April, we average about 3 inches of rain. Those of you that were here this weekend, I was not. We saw about 5. So we're in a good position right now with our grass and everything to raise awareness and teach our citizens how to be better stewards to the environment. So conserving water is something just as simple as not running the water while you're brushing your teeth. So I strongly encourage this. Again, raising awareness just teaches appropriate behavior so we all can do something small in our day to be better stewards for the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
So, before I get into the actual agenda item that's written, I'd like to just show this very brief PowerPoint and show you some of the faces of Wakulla County's commercial fishermen, past and present. This is Jonas Porter, 77. You've seen him here in our boardroom before. He's a Wakulla commercial fisherman who made his living. And in 1994, there were 1.4 million pounds of mullet reported in sales from 4,817 commercial fishing trips in the Appalachia Bay. The present, Nelson Nichols, 41, works 7 days a week in 2015 to make a living in the Apalachicola Bay, and mullet sales, which dropped to significantly, as you can see, to 1 million pounds. Commercial fishing trips plunged 1,662, a decline of 65.5% in commercial fishing trips. All the state is WFC. So why? The question is, why have so many commercial fishing trips and sales taken a drastic dive? And we can list many reasons, but the chief among them is the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission Rule 68B 4.0081 parentheses D, requiring the 2-inch mesh restriction for fishing nets. So before 1998, the commercial fishermen used nets with a mesh larger than the 2 inches to catch mullet, and the benefit was that the larger nets land commercial-sized fish and let the small fish escape to go on to grow and to spawn and to keep the cycle going. Now fishermen have to use the 2-inch mesh that snags and kills much more. And we've heard about these enormous byproducts of bycatch of really would destroying the environment with these nets. And the net result is that the fishermen actually end up catching fewer fish, and they look for work elsewhere. An estimated 98% of the netted small fish die, this is that bycatch, they don't have a chance to grow up. Dying fish thrown back, there are many different species, not just the mullet. And the fishermen are having a tough time trying to make a living with these nets that they're, by rule, ordered to use. So we have a tendency now, we're seeing a trend of restaurants buying more fish not harvested by our fishermen, and the whole fishing heritage and economy is in jeopardy of disappearing. So what this agenda item is going to ask for is to have is to appeal to the FWC for a review of the rule, and I'm asking for a suspension of that rule for our local fishermen. There are only, as can be identified, 4 full-time commercial fishermen left in Wakulla County, full-time, and 3 in Franklin County. There's a lot of fishermen that are doing this part-time because they can't support themselves out on the water with these nets. So, and there's precedent for doing what is being asked here tonight. And the precedent is that the FWC suspended oyster harvesting for Franklin County, specifically for that benefit of the economy and their oystermen. And in a similar vein, I think we need to support this suspension of rule here in Wakulla County for our fishermen.
Motion to approve.
Let me just, I appreciate that. Let me just say a couple more things. This is not just a simple thing of asking for a suspension. We're going to do that, hopefully. But we also want to have our fishermen who have been essentially excluded from the process of being represented at the table when rules like this are being put in place. And we want to support the commercial fishermen's cooperative to have them at the table with FWC, and we want to support that, I think, as a board, so that when FWC reads our resolution and understands what we're asking for, they can also understand from one of our commercial fishermen or more why this is being asked for and why it makes sense not to keep on devastating our fish population with this horrible bycatch that is taking place. So I thank you for that second.
All right, we have a first and second. We'll hear from the citizens. Start out with Ms. Nikki Barnes.
I'll just keep it short and sweet. This is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do for economic development. It's the right thing to do for putting our fishermen back to work, to give them an opportunity to make a living, to make a living wage here in our county, to increase our tourism, to increase our local development of our restaurants here. This is the right thing to do. I appreciate you guys getting behind the fishermen and agreeing to work with the FWC, and if they won't listen to you, they got to listen to us, the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chuck Hess.
Mr. Chairman, this is slightly revised, and you can read the rest to whereases.
So I haven't seen the final agenda here. So the question, you know, we all want to get our fishermen back to work. My problem with just putting a blanket suspension out there is it will cause problems. Basically, you'll attract fishermen from outside the county to come in and compete with the local fishermen. This could lead to a situation where you have so many fishermen out there that they still can't make a living. I would think that a better way to do this, and more, the Fish and Wildlife Commission might accept it better, is if you put a permit out that went to a local fisherman, okay, so they have the exemption from the net ban. So they can go out, you have 20, 25 permit for the local fishermen to go out and fish with the larger size mesh. That way you're not attracting fishermen from South Georgia and all to come down here and make a quick buck on mullet. I think it's a better idea and it's more sellable to the commission if you have a restricted harvest capability instead of wide open fishing. Thank you.
Thank you. Howard, does your section 1 address that by itself, or does that need to be clarified?
The only thing that I haven't, I think, clarified there, the whereases were expanded, as you can see. That's where I think that we need to have. I didn't put it in this resolution, but I think that the resolution should be supported by, when I mentioned us supporting the cooperative in having these restricted licenses that they have now. So it wouldn't be a free-for-all. Okay, so it's exactly what I'm moving towards.
Would that be something new to encourage that, or could we change that to say Wakulla County fishermen who are residents of Wakulla County?
I don't know if we need to say residents and make it that specific to Wakulla County. I think, though, if they have a
Wakulla County fishermen holding a restricted species license. To me, it's just a resolution. I think that's pretty clear.
Right, but I think we'd possibly end up with a problem with that.
You could live in Georgia and be a Wakulla County fisherman. You're not a resident of our county.
If we limit it to, don't forget, I mentioned that there are 4 full-time fishermen right now in Wakulla County, and 3 in Franklin County. Okay, and if we deal with this from a concept of from the Wakulla River to Indian Pass, in that geographic area, just like there was a specific geographic area for the oystering, I think we're on better turf to be able to support it rather than say, and each one of those full-time people can if you work a boat with a captain and a couple of crew, you can support and all those other part-time mullet fishermen, you can support up to suggesting 60 limited licenses, but we need to be able to control it.
And I'm 100% behind you on this. I just want to make sure that we have the maximum chance of getting this thing through. Would it make sense to take that last whereas that talks about the data from Wakulla River to Indian Pass and turn that into one of the sections, to one of the action items, and say that we want that to be part of this? So you mentioned doing a study, so we turn that into the study language.
Right, because we're asking for basically a 2-year look at. So you have to do studies before, see where we are, because that's another disappointing thing. The FWC went and did these rules, but there's, where's the information of where we started from and where we ended up after you passed these rules? Oh, it wasn't done, or at least it wasn't done to any degree that I can find any satisfaction with. So here you have, we're asking, okay, look, this is what makes sense to our fishermen whose life has been fishing, but let's also prove it. Let's do the scientific gathering of data before we put this rule into effect, or the suspension into effect, and let's look at it 2 years down the line and see what we really accomplished or not, okay, so that we can say, well, this might be good for the state of Florida.
Absolutely.
Right.
I agree. And I spoke with Senator Mumford's office on Friday. I do not have 100% commitment from him, but there was interest in him being involved in this and maybe going with us to request a study. And so at least that's what I was told. So I think that we can maybe build on that.
Well, so going back to your question about what to add there, I don't know how much we put in the therefore section that makes it more or less palatable. I'm sort of hesitant of putting more in, but that sort of gets the foot in the door if they're interested to go down this path, and get them together with our commercial fishermen, have that commitment that we have, I think, to support their committee, and have them really thrash it out with FWC. But FWC should know that the Board of Wakulla County Commission is supportive of this.
Let's run up the flagpole. If they bite, we'll work all that stuff out.
Very good.
We gotta see if they're gonna bite.
And we have one more citizen, Mr. Richard Van Munster.
Richard Van Munster, 135 Dixon Bay Road, Panacea. I'm amazed. I haven't seen this in 20 years. Been fighting this thing, but what the FWC will tell you is this was a political deal, not a scientific deal. So the politics are going to win. See, that's what they tell you. And who was it? Dwight Stevenson, that Miami center that made the Hall of Fame. We have a DVD with him asking, his first meeting was down there when we went down, and they were going to give us the big mesh, and then they decided out of the sunshine that they weren't. But anyway, he asked a question. He says, is it legal for us to give them this large mesh so they can work? And Rodney Barreto, who's a big developer down there in Miami, he says, well, yeah, we can give it to them, but we don't want to. See, you're dealing with developers, real estate people, and they go in and they get breaks and they get to do what the least that they can do. We heard it about the Equifina or the Fenn Holloway River. We're going to make things better and do better, but they never do that with us. They just crush us and throw us out in the cold. And what they've done in the 20 years, well, not 20, it went in 1997, the 2-inch mesh, they've killed millions of pounds of fish. I mean millions and millions and millions and millions of them. And they put millions of, not millions, but they put fishing families out of business. There was 9 fish houses in Rivera Beach, Florida, where I used to live. There's none. They ain't a fish house from Miami Beach to the Cape on the water. And here's another thing. I have a friend that lives in Cocoa Beach, and he's in the bait business. He said they just had a fish kill in the Banana River. He says there's nothing left in there, but there's no nets. See, and that's what they do. They throw us out, which throws the data out because they get nothing from the recreational people. They don't get no data from them. It all came from us. And what y'all are doing is you're stirring stuff up, and it's really good. And I hope that you hold them when they talk to you some yes and no questions, because they'll try to schmooze you now. They ain't people of integrity. Make no mistake. Like the one guy told me, he said, if I say that, I'll lose my job. See? And he was in complete agreement with, I ain't gonna say his name, but if he presses me, I will. But if something don't happen, I will. But he said, yeah, this mesh size has got to be increased. Has to be. And I have a friend that heard about this, and he said the Taylor County Commission is probably ready to jump right in with you.
Good. I've got some questions for you, if you don't mind, and maybe these guys do as well. During research and studying for this issue, I came across some information. FWC claims that they did a net study in 2005 that compared the 2-inch and 3-inch net. Do we have the results of that? And how does that look? How does that compare?
98%.
So the same
thing. It's the exact same thing.
They saw.
And you want to know how crooked and evil these people are? The Turkey Point folks, Felicia Coleman, and her husband wanted to do a real study. I don't know, it's 5 or 6, 7 years ago. The FWC stopped them.
So would it make sense, and this, Howard, to you as well, if FWC's data supports what these guys are telling us, and we know to be true, why don't we throw that in our resolution as well, that we're drawing back on their data, we're using their ammunition, their information, and we're showing them that, you know, first of all, Section 16 of the Constitution makes no mention of mesh size whatsoever. That's simply in the rule. We're asking them to remove that rule, and we do it based on their data, based on their research.
Yeah, as I understand, and I've read it, is that bycatch is there.
In there, that's a gill.
You want to fill out a card, Ms. Peck? Come up.
That's a gill net. That's a gilling study.
If you'll come up to the microphone so the folks at home will have it.
But anyway, that's a gilling study, and it showed that their net gills enormously. You got something to say?
The study they performed in 2005 I read, and it's an observation and analysis study, but this calls for scientific protocol. I mean, this was just observation and analysis, and it backs it up, but you want a real study.
Okay.
You want it reviewed by someone.
I say we pass this, let's send it up there. If it gets a little traction, we'll deal with all this at that time.
Y'all started something, and I hope you keep it. Don't let them schmooze you now, because they'll always, when they say that 2-inch is a gill net. I read the Constitution to you the last time I was here. The Constitution defines a gill net. Their 2-inch net is a gill net.
I got a motion on the floor to approve this.
If one additional question, and I'm ready to question too. The accusation from your opponents is this is not about science. This is about greed, just wanting to catch more fish. And I'm not buying into that. I'm just asking you a question. Is there any desire or value in an imposed daily limit? And I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I'm just asking that question. Is that
I think so.
That you guys would say, okay, give us this as part of the study, and we'll take a 500,000 pound. I don't know what that number is. I'm just throwing that out there. But is that something that you could kind of head that argument off? This is not a greed issue. This is let us feed ourselves.
Listen, we have it's a 98% gear reduction.
Right.
Their own scientists said it's the 500 square foot, the 98% reduction in gear that's causing the catch rate to go down. You're not going to outfish anything with 500 square feet. 500 square foot, you ain't going to do it. We weren't doing it anyway. So it's just anything that the opponents say is a lie.
Well, we're on your side.
I know that.
I'm declaring that.
Yep. I just want to say I fully support our fishermen. I fully support this resolution, and I think FWC, they already know the results. That they've been shown the results, and they're just ignoring it, and FWC's been stonewalling the fishermen, and I'm encouraged that by this board passing this resolution in support of our fishermen. But one thing that I wanted to ask that I had brought up, I think during the workshop we talked about this, was it's happened in the past where FWC has held business meetings at different parts of the state, and I still think it would be worth pursuing to ask if FWC could one day in the future hold a meeting, one of their meetings here in Wakulla, so our local fishermen in Wakulla could attend and could present the case for Wakulla to the commission. That they've already set a precedent by doing it in other cities, and I think it would be something that we could ask them to do here.
Good subject for another day.
Okay. I would like to see the Florida State Marine Lab to do that study. You mentioned
they threatened them with some stuff. I don't know what it was, but they dropped that like a hot potato. I mean, they had us over there talking. They said that was no study, and what they're worried about is the small mesh in that grass there off of Lanark's. What they're worried about, see? Because in that grass lives everything that lives offshore. See?
Really kind to approve this, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got it.
We've got a motion and a second.
That's it? Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Historic day for Wakulla County. Thank you. All right, Howard, I believe you have one more.
I'll give you $1 if you jump straight to a motion.
If you guarantee that it'll pass, I will do that.
Guarantee I'll second it. How about that?
I'll go do that.
You probably could have got another $1 for that.
Yeah. I won't take your dollar, but, what this is asking for is a letter opposing a downgrading of the manatee status. With the downgrading of the manatee status, the manatee become less protected. And, manatees now are a part of the cycle in Wakulla Springs. They're a big tourist attraction. I don't think we want that to happen. So I think there's some really good organizations and people that have signed on to this, and I think we as a county commissioner should do the same. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second. I don't think it's going to hurt to send a letter to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife headquarters in Virginia.
We have one citizen, Mr. Chuck Hess.
Chuck S. 112 Lake Ellen Circle. Basically, this to me is just a no-brainer because it's so important for our tourist industry to have these large mammals working our waters. And the activities that taking it off the list would just be, wouldn't have the boat restrictions. That's what people are concerned about. And I just don't see it worthwhile economically so you can drive faster. So I would say keep this as an endangered species. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We're not deciding tonight whether or not the manatee's endangered or not. We're simply sending a letter.
Right. We're signing on to the letter. We're not even making one up on our own.
Many people have signed it.
Yes.
Further discussion? Hear none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Mr. Kester, I believe that ends your agenda items.
Yes, sir.
County Attorney, anything? County Administrator.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Tuesday, April 19th, 6 o'clock in Panacea, we'll be having, at the Welcome Center in Panacea, we'll be having another presentation of the 1 cent sales tax, listening, education and listening.
How many non-employees attended the last workshop?
We counted them as non-politicians.
How many people?
Non-politicians, there was about four or five.
So that people that
that was too many.
Okay, well I was trying. That's right. We had a lot more politicians.
let me restate that. How many people were there that were either not employees being paid there, running for office, or married to or kin to people running for office?
Ooh. You had to throw in the marriage thing, didn't you? That took it down to about two.
We really need some more participation. I'll get to really 2 people. Yeah. This whole big meeting, I don't know how many staff was there, and of course, people running for office all got to go just to say they went. But we really need more regular people. That's not an insult to people running for office, but you know what I mean. More normal, regular.
We need normal people. That's right.
It's worse.
I've used that statement before, but it applies to me too. I'm not,
normal or regular?
Definitely have to be abnormal to run.
I'm in the loop, basically. I want more people that live like Wakulla Gardens, or people that's going to affect. Their input's really important.
They need to get engaged. That's right.
Engaged.
Please.
Yes.
Please.
Anything further?
That's it.
Patty, citizens to be heard. We have one, Mr. Beckton Roddenberry. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Good.
I'm addressing the board as not only a citizen of South Tropic, but also a city commissioner on behalf of my constituents. We have been dealing with a situation for at least minimum 2 years regarding a citizen in the county that's not in city limits that is using explosive materials, pretty much. These are 2 chemical compounds, ammonium.
No, don't tell them. Don't tell us. Really, don't encourage the people out there.
No,
we're aware of it.
Don't give us the recipe.
Okay, all right.
Don't give the recipe.
Well, and that's one of the issues is, it's so easy to go and get, and it's just causing so much, issues right now. But the problem is I've had multiple citizens come up to me and ask that we can do something. And the sheriff's office has told me that ATF has come out, FBI has come out, and I know it's it's gotten a hot mess from what I'm told. That's my little, I like to say that. And he's legal. And the current noise ordinance, I would encourage y'all, please, to look at. And let's try to figure out a way that we can make that not so, it's got so many loopholes in it. It's got too many loopholes in it. I believe it's after 9 o'clock, and I've been told that he has to do 2 bombs within 15 minutes. So 1 bomb will go off, and then at 16 minutes he'll do another bomb. And these are, this is a 5-mile radius, and it literally shakes our windows. And I've got 90-year-old women living within 1,000 feet from him. I've got an autistic child downtown Soptropi who the mother has expressed to me numerous times that it irritates and bothers her because she can't have any external stimuli. As a trauma nurse and ER nurse, I mean, the injuries, I looked up these statistics. There's 2 deaths that just happened recently from metal projectiles, and the guy was even 50 yards away. He had his leg amputated. So my point is, this stuff is not only disturbing the peace, but it's also a dangerous compound. And it's a public safety issue, in my opinion, at this point. So I just urge the board to figure out a way that we can, because I'm very pro amendment number 2, amendment 2. So it's like you're getting in a very tough situation on, you know, ammo, gear, you know, guns. But at the same time, I believe that this is something that it's posing a public safety issue.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's the last of our citizens to be heard. We'll go into discussion items. Howard, you have several, so we'll start with you.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to start with the plea that I think I'm going to be making almost every meeting, is that I really feel very strongly about this intersection in front of the high school. Moving the traffic closer to the high school, for me, makes it more dangerous. And I think the state is creating a more chance for a tragedy, and I really urge the board to consider stopping that. That's one. The budget items I have on are a couple. I wasn't, the sheriff's office had sent over an email to me that I haven't read yet. It just came over late this afternoon. I had asked for some information from the sheriff's department, but I also asked for our own county administrator. I'll hold off in going into that, but there's been talk about, you know, how much has been given to employees, county and sheriff. And I'm trying to gather up that information. So
clarify something, if you would. Most regular citizens don't understand it. The county, when we say county, we typically mean the Board of County Commissioners. That doesn't include the school board. That doesn't include the sheriff. It doesn't include, well, typically our general fund budget does include the court. It includes the tax collector, but they have separate budgets. But when we say county employees, we're typically talking about board employees, and the court employees, for example, are all kind of being bagged together. But we're not bagged up with the school board and the sheriff's department. Like you said, when we say county, but a lot of people, it's obvious to me and you what it means, but
okay.
Some people might
and I'm ready at any point in time, Dr. Kessler, because I will stand behind what we've done any day of the week.
Yeah, and so I intend to bring the data back, whatever that data is, from the sheriff's office. We'll have our data from our county administration, and so we compare once and for all, apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and see where we are with this.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. But
okay.
Yes.
Well, and so anyway.
I'm about tired of it, because it's something we put to rest. Am I right, Brandy? A bunch, and we're tired of it.
Okay. So on the other issues of the budget, I know that I brought up budget before, and I received a comment or comments, oh, we should be only talking about the budget during budget workshops. I don't personally agree with that. I think that we should be putting forward our ideas of how to, if we're going to be doing a tax cut, let's talk about it now. If we're going to be making additional taxes, let's talk about it now. If we're going to be tightening the belt in some areas, let's talk about it now. Every opportunity that we have, are we going to continue giving money to non-governmental agencies, non-for-profits, private entities? Those type of things I think are important, and I think we at least should get that discussion out of the way as we get further along the year. So we have to work both sides of the equation, not just the revenue side, but also the spending side. And that's all I'll talk about on the budgets. The Perry discharge plant, I think we've hashed through that enough. Unless Randy wants to say something like that.
Absolutely not.
Okay. And there was something interesting that I was got involved on. Looking at a study that was done for Wakulla Springs by FSU, the Dedman School of Hospitality, but it's really outdated. And at that time, well over, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I'll get you the exact date, they had somewhere between $22 and $25 million impact to the local regional economy. I actually spoke to the fellow who doctor who did the study, and they have no new data on it. And I was thinking that it might be worthwhile for us, since Wakulla Springs is such a important draw and is in our county, that we might want to look at a possible grant to fund a new economic study on the impact of Wakulla Springs, so that we can use it going forward in other areas.
The Regional Planning Council, there's some grants put out for comp plans, technical assistance, grant summer. You know all about these, right? Like we had one for Wakulla Gardens at one time. I think your idea would be useful applying for future grants. So we're going to get more money for sewer or water. If we had some studies that said, here's the impact, if nothing else, it'll be a tool to help us get more money.
That's what I'm saying. Yep.
But maybe you could look into these technical assistance grants. I think the Department of Economic Opportunity does them, or...
Yeah, and I can share the data that I have as far as the rough numbers on what it would cost to do that, so you know what kind of, actual dollars we're looking at.
Get that to us, because in the morning at, 2 o'clock tomorrow, we're having a grants meeting.
Well, that's one of the things the Regional Planning Council does with their economic...
Well, I'll send it to Summer and Mr. Edwards.
Yeah, we'll put it on our grants team agenda.
Okay, very good.
We've got a task force now.
Very good. And then...
Superfly.
Two other things. One is the Florida Forever Amendment 1 resolution that didn't survive. I really think that someone who was on the prevailing side of that should bring it back and support that funding of Forever Florida land purchases. There's a recent article, foul water could force Club Med out of Port St. Lucie, March 30th, 2016. So this is a destination resort. It's been in the region for over 30 years, and now because of the water pollution that's occurring there, they may shut down. Huge resort. And you say, well, they've gotten their investment out of it, it's 30 years old and whatever else. But if you read the article, it tells, I don't know, $20 to $30 million that they recently put into the upgrades within the last 10 years. So, you know, they were intending to stay here, but how can you have people flocking to a destination resort that want to go into the water, and now the state is telling them to stay out of it? So, it's really important, this water thing, and that Florida Forever land purchases is what helps to keep our water clean. So I just encourage someone to possibly bring that back.
And if I received a copy of that in my box today, but I have not had a chance to read it yet. What are they pointing to, the source of the? They tell about the different discharges and the. But it's not a scientific article. It's really just a news release. And yeah. So, and then that was my fault of getting it to. I just came across it, and so I just figured I'd share it. The other thing is Otter Creek Road. I've spoken with staff about this, ESG. It's been a road that we've had multiple complaints on. I know there are lots of roads throughout the county that receive multiple complaints. But apparently this road is in need of some road base, and I don't know I'm just bringing it to the board to see if the board, I'm sure you've heard of this road before. If you haven't, I guess you can speak with Cleve about it, but to see if the board wanted to do anything to try to resolve that.
Now, I'm understanding, Howard, if this road is, there's a section, David, correct me if I'm wrong, where the homeowner does not want the county to maintain it.
That's right. Cleve can speak to that.
Most of the road, I think, is county maintained, but we've run into this before. Was it Richard Creech Road, I think, over there off Wakulla Aaron, same situation. It's a loop road, and the person on the back says you can stop grading there and whatever.
George Crump Road kind of falls up underneath that same category too, where there's one property owner that doesn't want county equipment on his property.
Well, this is different than George Crump Road, because George Crump Road, we don't maintain any of it. And this road, we do maintain like 90%, but this one section, like Caraway Cutoff maybe would be a good example too.
Yeah.
Actually, it'll tie back into the Caraway Cutoff, the part that we don't maintain. So we maintain it, then it'll come back and loop back to Nichols Road and come back to 319. We can, if you want to put some base on the road, but the problem we have on this road is right away. We barely got 16 foot, 2 cars barely can pass. Currently, the road is 24 inches below the normal elevation out there, the original ground elevation. We have, I can put all the base you want to out there, but like maybe we'll have more right away and put ditches there, it will not solve the problem.
Do we grade the part that they want base put on?
Yeah, we do. That's just
putting the base down where we maintain it already.
It will hold up during wet weather, but it's still going to hold water.
I understand. But if we're already maintaining it anyway, I thought this was a part that we weren't.
No, it's just the.
I was mistaken then.
Okay, all right.
I got the bad information.
I mean, y'all should handle this internally.
We'll handle this internally.
If it's a county maintained.
We went. I was a little bit confused when I was talking to you today too, thinking it was that section that went back over to Caraway Cutoff.
Oh, okay.
But this is a straight portion that goes back in and it ties into Nichols Road. And
so back out. County maintained part?
Yes.
Good job. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Y'all
Thanks for clarifying that, Clay.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going crazy.
Good job.
Okay, I think I'm finished. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I was reading this nice thing Shelley did, and being the environmentalist that I am, I noticed it's printed on 2 sides. And Howard and I were talking earlier. He's got a stack of paper he's going to take home with him for writing notes on. That's only printed on 1 side, and it just seems like that's a lot of paper to be wasted. I don't want to cause anybody problems, but you know, David, if there is these bulk things that we print, if there's any way to do it.
Everything that we print in the office is back and front, but I don't know why this doesn't print back and front.
Well, like this piece of paper, this presentation is printed on the front and the back, like a book.
Right.
All this stuff Howard has here is only printed on 1 side, like the agenda. It's got a blank page. The back side of the paper is blank. Just thinking, if it's easy, if it's something big, you can print it.
Those aren't everything that comes out this double side is printed, but we need to. We'll take care of that. We'll take care of that.
No, I need to make sure. Anyway,
There's a few blank pages in there.
I'm always thinking about the environment.
That's the Republican in there.
Don't worry about it. You know the point. If we can save paper, maybe
Yeah.
save some money,
Yes,
save some budget money.
gotcha.
Now, the explosion thing, Richard, I understand you wouldn't, we're not going to say the guy's name. I
I'm
know
not,
who he is.
but,
Did you go talk to him?
I called him on the phone.
And he agreed not to blow him up at night?
Well, the thing that that's actually what I was going to talk about when he got to my item, so I'll go ahead.
Go ahead
and
and
bring
talk
it up. At the last meeting, staff let me know that at the end, whenever we got done talking about it, that we adjourned the meeting without really directing staff one way or the other. And staff was wondering which direction to go, so I told him I would bring it back up tonight. But since the last meeting, I have talked to the citizen, and he is aware that some citizens have made complaints, you know, and the consensus that he and I come to was he was in agreement that even though what he's doing is legal, that his location might possibly is not the best place to do it. And he did say that he would like to know if there was somewhere else further out away from town to where to where he could go and set it up. And so that was the thing. I mean, as far as continuing to do it, I mean it's legal. It's a hobby that he has, but he does. We did come to the agreement that he knows that where he's doing it at is causing a lot of citizen complaints.
And I understand that he agreed not to do it at night anymore. Is that correct?
What he told me.
What I'm afraid of is
and
we're changing a whole ordinance.
Well, exactly. That's why I wanted to
accomplish one
this
thing.
is just one. This is one citizen. It's very annoying, I will say, you know, but it's just one citizen. But there are other citizens that are maybe using
I know
the county,
some other people that do it too.
but they're doing it legal in a good location that's not causing citizen complaints. And I'm concerned that if even though that I know this one issue is causing a lot of problems in that one location, it's being used in other parts of the county without any complaints, and I don't want to inadvertently reduce. I don't want to inadvertently reduce what other citizens may be doing legal.
I'm not going to blow it up on my property.
I'm not going to either. I don't want to do with it.
But I do know some people.
There are some people that are mishandling the product.
I don't free dive 80 feet of water either, but some people love doing that. So.
There's some citizens that are well, there's one in particular that may be mishandling it, but I talked to him, and he said he was wanting to find somewhere else other than where he's at now in order to do it, so it doesn't cause.
I would like to see us just before we go changing an ordinance, which is not an easy thing to do. Let's just hold off and see if it can be resolved. You know, maybe he'll find somewhere somebody's got some property, Jerry, more that he can go to that's vacant, and you know, whatever.
My house that I have now is about 3 miles north of Sock Dropping, and I can still hear it whenever it goes off. So I know that.
And if it can't be resolved, it's continuous, then let's take a look at it. But it was just a matter.
Resolve itself exactly.
If you called him and said, "Hey, would you mind not doing it at night?"
and he said yes. He did tell me that he would not do it at night or in the early mornings.
The guy for a long time.
Yeah,
I mean,
now I have heard it since then, but it was in the middle of the afternoon, and you know, and like I said, I heard it 3 miles north. But where some of the injuries that are happening is where people are mixing it with, like if somebody puts it in a lawnmower and they shoot it and they want to see that's where they're flying shrapnel. Like, you know, there's people that's mishandling the product beyond what it meant to be used, but there's other things that come into play.
So you were talking about regular and normal before. I don't get some of this stuff. I mean, I understand he's now looking for an area that would be further away. But, you know, right now, doing it in the afternoon doesn't seem to help that
doesn't help at all.
Woman who is whatever age she is, or whoever else is living around there that's in the direct proximity of a quarter of a mile from this fellow's.
It is annoying. I will.
Well, it seems like it's more than annoying. People are going to lose their hearing and things like that. They're going to be hurt by this. So it seems to me that this is more than just an annoying thing. This is an issue of the health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. I'm not sure where the city councilman from Sopchoppy was here. Sopchoppy cannot pass its own.
The property is just outside the city limits,
okay,
so
that
it falls
explains
back
that.
on us.
Okay, that explains that.
That's why I brought it up at the last meeting, because it's an unincorporated area.
But I think whether it's done in the afternoon or done in the evening or done whenever, if it's that loud that you're hearing it 3 miles away, that's not supportable for the people around him. And I think we really have to look at doing something about
All I'm expressing is that it's a slippery slope. Somebody may have an 8-gauge shotgun they got from somewhere, and they want to shoot it in their backyard with 3-inch triple magnum.
I've
That's preempted by state, so it's not going to be.
Well, I'm saying if we just do it to noise, you know, there's other things that make loud noises too.
I have spoken to law enforcement on behalf of citizens. I've spoken to the sheriff on others on behalf of the citizens, and we've tried to read up as much as we can. And the response that I got was that because it was a legal product, it put us in how do we regulate a legal product?
I'm not supporting homemade explosives.
I'm not either.
I want to be careful that we don't go down a slippery slope to fix one problem that you may be able to work it out with the guy.
I've been trying to work it out with him to where we didn't have to. As a last resort, I would say as a last resort, I think we would need to, as a county, take an action as a last resort.
I agree.
But I've talked to him to try to get. I've talked to the citizen 3 different times to try to get the citizen himself to
appreciate you doing that.
to just basically, as a matter of decency, not do it where he's doing it so it doesn't cost the citizen complaints. I'm trying to, as a last resort, if that doesn't resolve itself, then I would be open to pursue action from the board. But I've reached out to the citizen in order to allow the citizen to just use self-judgment, common decency for their fellow neighbors to not do it. And if that fails, then I would be for. It's going to be
in his court.
In his court.
And it, you know, and if the citizen still continues to do it even after that, then I don't know how much respect they would have if you did an ordinance. You know, but I've reached out to him, and I'm trying to give the citizen an opportunity to correct it himself.
He agreed not to do it at night.
He agreed not to do it at night.
He wanted to get along with
He
the
also,
neighbors.
he said he's looking and wanting to find a location far out away to where he's not where he's presently at now.
Randy, anything further for you?
Do we have, so is that the consensus of the board, or we're just going to hold off and?
Hold off and let's see if it'll work itself out.
But consensus, but that's my thought.
And I'm for getting something ready to address this issue, because I don't think we should sit around and you know, how much time we're going to allow this thing to be. I think if people are being damaged, and from the description of what's going on here, I guarantee you people are being damaged by this. And so from a health and safety, well-being of our citizens, I think we have to prepare something. If this doesn't resolve itself, we have to take action sooner than later.
If this doesn't resolve itself very soon, I would be in agreement with the board to take further action.
And if I could just clarify, Randy said about the recipe and the concoction, it's my understanding you just go buy this right off the shelf. You can buy it at any gun shop. And so, you know, that makes it a little more complicated. That this can just be bought in a box and taken home. And so we're looking at a legal product that we got to figure out how to.
Howard said, don't tell how to make it.
Right.
Yep.
You can order it.
Yes.
You can order it in the mail. They'll send it, ship it to your house. You can go buy it. I mean,
post office is shipping.
You know, the post. It even ships through the post office. You know, but if it's mishandled and misused beyond, it can cause injury.
Okay, so we will hold off on until somebody brings an agenda item back, and I just want to let you know I keep having images of the Gilligan's Island, the nitroglycerin thing, but I don't think it's that's what keeps popping into my head.
Nothing further for you? Okay, I've got a couple things. One, you guys may have received a phone call just like I did from a local fisherman. Apparently we're learning about additional problems. I got a phone call from one of our crabbers that apparently when the lake is high at Lake Talquin and they release an extreme amount of water, which they have to do, that creates a problem where it's killing the crabs in the trap, killing their peeler crabs. I'm waiting for some photos and some documentation from that gentleman who reached out to me.
He called me too, same guy.
Okay. He called me too. All right, maybe all of us. I've also spoken to Senator Mumford's office and I spoke to,
Set your office up over there.
yeah, they've been very receptive, and what they committed to is if we can get that information, they'll at least try to help us do the legwork to figure out, do we need to speak with the city of Tallahassee because it's their power plant? Does the Corps of Engineer, and I didn't know the answer to that, does the Corps of Engineer regulate that water? And surely we're probably not going to get them to change any of that schedule, but maybe at a very minimum there can be some communication where they say, on this date we're opening up the locks, and maybe our fishermen can figure out that once we reach this threshold, get your traps out of there because it's coming. And so just a matter of being a good neighbor. If we can communicate, we can probably solve a lot of it.
I guess if the crabs, I was going to ask Ray about this, if the crabs weren't in the traps, they could probably move.
They will.
To more
well, they'll actually burrow down, and they'll get down in the sand, and they can survive until that fresh water passes, or they could move further out if they need it.
I don't think we'll stop it, and I wouldn't assume it's the Corps, but if they would let them know they're going to do it, that would be a big help for them.
Yeah. I mean, he explained to me that...
You're going to handle that then, right?
I'm already working on it. And I put it back in his court to give me some ammunition, to give me the facts and the data, and then we'll take it further.
With, I think there's a couple of places you can go to get level. They can go to get level conditions and what gates are open and all that stuff as well, and depths, and maybe an education on the crabbers as well. It's out there. You may have to we just got to figure out.
I think you're right. When he brought it to my attention, I said, you know what, that makes perfect sense, but I could live the rest of my life if I'm not crabbing. I would never think of that. You know, and that's just he's losing $100 to $200 per trap. You know, he opens them up and all of his work is gone, and so it's a big problem, but I think communication would solve that problem.
Good.
Next thing, Howard, this might or might not make you happy. I'm accepting your challenge, and I wrote an Amendment 1 resolution. I'm not finished with it yet. I've been working with Mr. Estes Whitfield. I'm sure you know who he is.
Yes.
And so I'm going to be bringing that back at another meeting. And
good. Thank you.
It's based off of the one that you brought forward, but I've definitely modified it to what I think needs to be done, and maybe it'll fly, maybe to get a 1-4 vote, and I'm the only one who votes for it. But I'm going to at least give a shot at that, and I'll be bringing that back.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
I talked to the crabber also, and in Lake Lanier up in Atlanta, they have a schedule, and if you're kayaking or fishing on the river, you can call the power plant, and they'll give you the schedule of water release. And I would think that Talcon probably has the same thing, so I told him to do that. Cleve, we were talking about Caraway Cutoff. I took a couple of guests to show them the beautiful forest in Wakulla.
You didn't drive down Caraway Cutoff, did you?
Pardon?
You didn't drive down Caraway Cutoff, did you?
Well, I'm not through yet. Anyway, I was showing them the beautiful part of Wakulla, and I was driving down Caraway Cutoff, and just a little bit later, I was in a hole up to my... I was in such a hole it was coming in the windows. So my guest had to climb out on top of the car. So it was an exciting day in Wakulla County.
New car.
And I had to be towed. The first wrecker was too small. It couldn't pull me out.
They have some good stories now.
There's some potholes out on that road, Jerry.
That's right. One good thing for the oyster people that gather the oysters off the bottom is that Bob Ballard with WEI just received a $250,000 grant from the state that will allow for study of the medium that you can put on the bottom that will most attract oysters. And so he was able to get the grant for $250,000. So there will be a study made as to what is the best medium, what is the best rock, shell, or whatever to go. And I think that's Apalachicola is doing that now on an area, but this is the first time this has ever happened in Wakulla. A little bit about oyster farming and farming in the water column. There's 20 farmers out there now that are farming oysters, and each one of those farmers are hiring anywhere between 1 and 3 people. So in the last 2 years, this oyster culture that we have, the oyster farming that WEI, the Institute, has put forward, we're almost hiring 50 people today. some of those may be part-time, but basically as this thing moves up, it takes 3 people to do 1 lease. As when you get that lease into production, it takes 3 full-time people. Every one of those leases, that person has to have a boat, they have to have equipment, they have to have poles. So there's a big spin-off that's going on with this culture. And every year there will be anywhere from 10 to 20 new farmers coming on board, and every one of those farmers at some point will be employing 1 to 3 people. And so we're trying to contract now with a lot of the retail stores here in Wakulla to get our post. We use some 2-inch galvanized steel. We use, that's 10-foot sticks. We use PVC, Schedule 40. We use line, we use baskets. We're trying to find somebody maybe who can make the baskets. And you use basically about 5,000 baskets per lease. And those things are costing us now $15 to $20.
How big are they?
The baskets are about, I have one in my truck. They're about 8.
What are they made out of?
About
Half-trap stuff?
Yeah, no, they're made out of rubber. They're made out of polyethylene, so they'll last a long time. But they're about 8 inches in diameter and about 30 inches long. And when they're full, they'll hold 100 oysters. You can get Wakulla oysters now at Wakulla Springs. You can get Wakulla oysters at Tropical Trader. So they're available out on the market now. We're shipping some of our oysters over to Apalachicola, who is in turn shipping them to other places, basically as Apalachicola oysters, because their oysters, they're so devastated in their oysters. But our water is so nutritious that we can do a 3-inch oyster in about 120 days. We can get up. That doesn't mean all of them will be 3 inches, but there will be some growth that's 3 inches. Australia, where we've had people come talk to us, takes them 4 years to grow an oyster because their environment is so pure. They have no nutrition in their water. Canada takes about 3 to 4 years because they have to chop through blocks of ice to get to their oysters. It's too cold, and they have no nutrients in their water. The Chesapeake Bay is pretty much the same thing. Washington State is the same thing. We have the best water and the best growing system in the country, probably maybe in the world. Our water is clear and it's clean. So it's a growing business, and it's probably going to be very soon it'll be the #1 employer in the county.
So how many people are making a full-time living from the oyster program? And especially I'm interested in the first class from TCC that had started about, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Is anyone of that class making a full-time living from their oystering?
I would think probably 7 or 8 of them. Only one of those groups that I know of is not actually farming per se, but I know that I will mention Mr. Jordan and Mr. Dixon. They're in the water full time. I mean, they're actually in the water all the time. So, and there's probably 8 of that first class. The second class now is going into the water right now. So, it is very exciting. Very exciting. If you have a need, if you have a wish or you want, you can get in that program. It's not a closed program. So it's available, and it's working. It's absolutely working. We have 5 million oysters that's going in the water probably the 1st of June. 5 million, and that's just a start.
Richard?
We've already addressed mine. Like I said, I've talked to that citizen. I've reached out to them and given them an opportunity to do the right thing for their citizens and for their neighbors. And if in a short period of time, if it proves that that's not going to work, then I would be open to taking further action. But I've just given it opportunity to work itself out.
Very good. I have one more thing. Just to report back. CLTPA they had a meeting the other day. Cherie Keeler was there of the Florida Trail Association, and they were going to pick one trail in Florida to fund, I think, $25 million for. And there, I don't know how many there were, 6, I don't know. 7 made the top cut, but there were many more below that. We were in that top cut, and in the end, we came out as the number 2 project in the whole state. The one over St. John's River, I think, was number 1, but not by much. 1 point, apparently. 1 point. So we just barely missed it, and I want to thank Commissioner Brian Deloge came to support us, and he spoke in favor of it. Of course, they benefit too, but, you know, Brian's a heavy hitter. And Nancy Miller came, City Tallahassee Commissioner, she came and spoke for us, and Betsy Barfield, Jefferson County. In no small measure, she told me, because I asked them to come, you know, I said, I appreciate you guys coming to support us, and they came. And several citizens spoke in favor of it. Robert Seidler was the first speaker. He did a very good job defending it. Bob Ballard was there and spoke for it, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Cherie Keeler spoke for it, and a couple of other people. But that's pretty good to be ranked number 2 in the whole state. So nothing else. Maybe we'll get it next year.
We've come a long way.
A long way.
I make a motion to adjourn.
One additional thing, I just need to announce Alex Quintana is in the audience with Representative Graham's office. He was also here Saturday for our Vietnam Veterans Celebration, so he's always plugged into our community. And as always, give you a chance to speak if you have some words for us.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Good
Appreciate
speech.
you coming.
I'll second your motion, Jerry.
We'll stand adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.